So this is my first time going live on YouTube on my channel. So today we've got Roo, Jane, and Tony. So they're all our guests today. Roo?
Hey!
Hello, I'm just checking for you. It's on. Hi, everybody.
Hello all.
So I can see
really well so far. No technical issues whatsoever. So, at noon, we started. Okay. Oh, there.
Hi, Lisa, Skilton.
Lisa. Oh, it's all the Lisas.
Okay, so I can see them all now.
There we go.
So do we just let them load up for a second?
No, Danny, you just get into it.
Danny.
Oh, I got my anxiety. Don't forget
to be very nice to Danny, because it is his fun to get this on tonight. He's done really, yeah. Be gentle, everybody.
I'll fill in what Jane wasn't saying, guys. Because Jane has got the worst microphone in the world that you'll get every other word. It's Danny's first time, and so he's trying to get comfortable in what he's doing. But you wouldn't think that we got Jane's equipment sorted tonight. We spent ages getting it right, and now it's broke again just before. So Danny's going to go on and tell you all what we're going to be chatting about today, and we'll go from there.
Can I just?
So I thought.
Can I just
go on, Jane?
Ask if anyone can hear me now? Can you hear me now?
It's like there's like gaps.
You're breaking up, Jane, so you're not getting part of the conversation. Okay, let's carry on with the live then, guys.
So I thought, okay. So I thought that we thought we could discuss like how our garden's been this year, how the garden will be next year, and what things we're going to improve on. And like it's been a weird year. First of all, we had like the droughts, and then we had the rain, and then we had more where there was the sun was just too intense. And I think Jane's left, so hold on, we'll put that. So I just think that we just all start discussing like what was your highs and lows of gardening this year, and is there things that you think impacted it? Like I obviously know the weather where I was and everywhere else, it did impact it, but was there other things that you think that you could do next year that could change how you garden this year? Because I definitely can.
So who's that to, Danny?
That's to the audience, and that's to you two as well until Jane comes back. Jane's thrown me, she has, because we were all set. And
Roo, why don't you go first?
Go on, Roo. Jane's coming back in. Let's see if she.
So I'm very fortunate. I think the thing that's affected pretty much everybody has been that big drought that we had and lack of water. I am really fortunate, so I'm going to be smug that we're on a borehole. So there's no restrictions. I could water. You can still use a sprinkler. You can use as much water as you like. But I think the lesson learned for me is if I didn't have the borehole, it would be to be putting more water butts in and saving as much water as possible, because I think this year's thrown everybody off, hasn't it? So
massively.
We had a huge amount of heat, didn't we? And it's been unprecedented for us. I mean, I had 16,000 litres sat on my plots, and I ran out. It was crazy. So it's and I think it's a sign of things to come. We're going to be continually having changing weather. I mean, it's not stopped raining for 3 weeks for me here. And I was talking to Danny, and he's only a few miles up the road, and he's been telling me today that he's had loads of sun, and it's hammered down all day here and all night, in fact, and it's still raining now. So we've just got to adapt to what we've got, really,
Yeah, and I think we've been spoilt a little bit as well, where we expect those taps to be put on all the time, and if you've got them on your sites, and if you haven't, then
we need to be thinking
And you should be thinking ahead. And I think that we use those taps too often. You know, like I was actively using as much as the rainwater I could, and then we didn't have any, so we was like, okay, we now need to use those. But it shouldn't be our first port of call, you know. And I think.
So what other things can we be doing? Like, so for me, I was using shade netting, shade cover for the polytunnel, just to, you know, to stop it being so intense. Mulch.
That's all well and good, but I mean, first things first is your soil preparation, because there is so much that organic matter will do in your soil for water retention, rather than it just running right through that ground. So it's really important to, you know, use the winter now and the early spring in which to build that soil structure, whether you're going to grow a green manure or whether or not you're going to put organic matter like coarse manures and things like that in, something that's going to act like a sponge, and then mulch that soil as well, which will stop evaporation, and that will be a good thing. And again, with the shade netting as well, that's, you know, another thing that you can do later on, but that, you know, you need to be putting things in place now ready for next season.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is like the perfect time as well. Like, we all say that, oh, this is our downtime, but really I actually see this as more busier than the summer, because in the summer I don't really want, you know, to be spending all my time in the heat. So I do try and prepare things now, and I spend all the time when it's cold and it's wet, even though it's horrible being out there. I like to do those things that I know later on in the seasons are going to benefit my garden and my time as well.
And there's quite a few variations in the comments there I can see, between sort of, I didn't have a heat wave, people that have had a heat wave, people that have got various issues water-wise. So everybody's had it different by the looks of things.
Yeah. So, like, for instance, like, we all seen this year, like, beans, they were hit and miss with people, and also like leaks. A lot of leaks were bolting that I was seeing on other channels and, you know, gardeners. But I was quite lucky where I was that mine didn't bolt, but I had other issues. But
that might also be a point of thinking about whether you sow sets or seed for onions and things like that, because, you know, sets will typically bolt if they, you know, if they get that period of dry and then they get a lot of water afterwards, whereas seed don't tend to do that. So, you know, it's going to alter the way that a lot of people garden and think about their garden further down the road, you know.
Can I just say, can you hear me?
Yes,
Jane. Can I just say, Steve's just said here in the comments, he's only watered twice this year, apart from new plants.
Did he leave the hose on for a week each time? Is
just turn the tap on and off? How did you manage?
He's growing rice though, guys.
So I actually, so there was 2 beds on my plot as well, and they were exactly the same amount of, I put well-rotted manure in both of them, and then I top dressed them with compost. And when I did water and when I didn't, and I didn't find there was much difference. There was in the fact that I was pulling things out quicker, like the lettuces and things, but
it's all about that moisture retention, folks.
Yeah,
you know?
and I personally think that I just started thinking, like, am I over mothering these plants? And, you know, I think we make them lazy as well, that they're not going down to find, you know, to grow those roots.
That's the biggest thing. Early in their life, you want to give them a bit of a hard time so they drive the roots down looking for water. That makes the plant not only stronger, but less susceptible to drier conditions, because all this root system isn't across the surface, which would be typically the way if you're watering on a daily basis. You're much better to water, you know, really deep and only maybe once or twice a week rather than watering daily.
I think, sorry, now I'm just waiting. I don't speak, so I'm miming and waving at people as they come into the chat. Because there are quite a few people join. But I think the other thing to think of, I agree with you, Tony, but I think as well, going back to the mulch idea, is a lot of people will say, well, I'll mulch the plot, and they still dried out. You've got to make sure that the soil beneath your mulch is in a decent condition before you put the mulch in. Because all you're doing is locking in what's already there. If you've just got dry soil, then you're going to put mulch on top and think that's going to work.
And that's where it comes from. It's part of a system. You've got to get that soil, organic matter in the soil to start with now, and over winter. then you need to lock that moisture in with a mulch, and then again with like shade netting and things like that afterwards. You know, anything you can do then to control and mitigate that evaporation. You know, it's good from there. You know.
Yeah, yeah. I think we're good as gardeners. We're good at adapting, though. So, you know, it might be completely different next year, but we've just got to be ready for it, haven't we? Really, you know. And I think, especially having a community, you know, as in YouTube and wherever, we can all go and ask each other what we're doing and help each other out. I've never used shade netting in my life, and it would have really, really helped. You know, but now I'm thinking ahead. Next year, that's what I need to do. You know, if we have a similar...
Oh God, if I want to use my shade netting on that's the only thing about my mini polytunnel. It took the battering of the heat, and if I wouldn't have had that shade cloth, and like that would have been an absolute nightmare. I'm trying to find the photograph. I clicked the wrong one. I'm trying. Like if I wouldn't have had that, it would have been baked to death. Absolutely.
I think the biggest issue with people is that, you know, through the winter they think, right, I've got to dig my allotment. And the problem with digging an allotment is, or a plot or a garden or whatever it is you're digging, is that you're destroying all of the waterworks within that soil, because you might think, oh, I've got to break up the compaction stuff. But if you're growing in there and you've got microbial activity in there, they're creating tons of waterways. And then as you hoe off, you know, plants and leave the root systems and they rot, that puts in, you know, new waterways and stuff like that. And you're destroying all of that. And the problem is when you're destroying that, then it just allows water just to pass right through it. Whereas you want it to hold that water like a sponge.
So I think like what I learned was that maybe I should have put the shade netting on. I knew the heat, like they were always saying the heat wave was coming, and I think I baked that soil a little bit too much, and then by the time I put it on, it was okay. It saved the plants, but it didn't you know, it didn't help underneath already. That was bone dry. Should we read some of the comments?
Lisa says the shade on the outside of a polytunnel was a must. I put tarpaulin right down the length of my polytunnel, and actually growing my beans at the arch in the polytunnel this year also provided shade. So I had a sort of win-win there.
Yeah.
I did once paint the greenhouse with that white stuff.
And was it effective, do you think?
Emulsion?
No idea. It worked. I wouldn't have done. But I just
you mean like the Windoline sort of stuff, don't they? Like a powdery sort of stuff.
Yeah. I think
so. Lisa was saying that she puts shade on the outside of her polytunnel, and it's a must for her. And I think you'll find with a lot of greenhouses and polytunnels, they you know, I mean, the temperature in those goes crazy, especially if you don't have the ventilation. And it was why in my polytunnel, I cut those windows out right along the whole length of it. And in the polytunnel I made the windows along there, because you need that cross ventilation. Otherwise, not only do you pick up the heat, but when it starts cooling down and gets wetter, then you pick up all of the, you know, powdery mildews and the blights and stuff like that. So, you know, that shade on those sort of things are really good.
I've got a solar powered fan as well, which I find really, really helpful. Have in the polytunnel, have both doors open, and I've got my solar fan going, and that really helps.
There's a few people saying hi in the chat. So, I think
if I'm not saying hi, I'm still trying to.
I think we have noticed that you're saying hi, guys. It's just really hard to say hello to everybody for all of us. You know,
it scrolls quite quickly, doesn't it? But hi, everybody.
Whoever's here, it's really lovely to see you. Can I just go back to the ventilation thing, because this is the first year running we have not had tomato blight, and I put that down to
and that's all down to the ventilation, guys. I haven't had tomato blight in like 14 years.
Yeah, I don't want to tempt fate. I haven't had it here, and I have a really good circulation going in that polytunnel with the fan, and also chopping out some foliage, not having them too close together.
In which case, does the fact we haven't had blight this year bode well for next year? Because we won't have the spores?
Because blight is airborne, so it makes absolutely no difference.
That's a shame. Yeah, that's a shame.
I thought that the blight was. I just put it down to the fact that I didn't feel we didn't have those summer showers as well that I normally have when it's still warm. That's why I kind of thought that the issue that I thought that's what I put it down to, because we just went from summer. I took all my tomatoes out, and then we had the rain this year. I didn't.
Lisa,
I think the biggest problem for most people.
Sorry, go on. Lisa was asking about the fan. It's from. Can I say the place? Beginning with A that we like to shop on.
Lisa, I'll send you a link later on.
I wasn't going to say it, but it's the place that begins with A that we like to shop on.
What I will say about Blight and what have you guys is people think that Blight will continue living in the soil and stuff like that, and that's why they're worried and they call tomatoes to the dirty plants and things, and not to put them in your compost. But providing you get a good compost, then there's no issues with putting blighted tomatoes in compost. And the reason for that is blight requires living tissue to survive. So it won't stay in your soil. So next year's blight will come on the wind. It's not going to come out of your soil. So whether you've had blight or not, you still got a chance of catching blight next year. But it's all about that air circulation. But don't be afraid to compost those blighted tomatoes.
You don't have to worry about planting your tomatoes in the same place that had blight last year. You can plant them in the same place.
As long as you've got no living tissue in that soil throughout, the winter, and you give it a rest period, then it's not going to be a problem.
Okay.
A few people saying they've still got tomatoes going. I've still got tomatoes going.
And I have,
I've had tomatoes through till November in the past in the Polytunnel.
In fact, my one Polytunnel is still like a jungle. It's got tomatoes, chilies, and aubergines and all sorts in it. So I haven't had time to get in it, so it's going nuts at the moment, especially with this wet weather.
I noticed Robin asked a question. It's gone off the chat now about woodlice. She's had so many of her sweet potatoes, was it, Robin? Decimated.
Asking about, I spotted that.
And I'm just wondering, woodlice are supposed to be good for the garden.
Yeah, woodlice will feed on decaying matter. Okay, so they're an isopod, so they don't eat living tissue. They'll only eat decaying matter. So they are good. But so what people see, like if you remember back in one of my potato videos, I had some potatoes with like woodlice in there, and people are saying, oh, well, woodlice have eaten the potatoes. It's not actually what's happening. What's happening there is the woodlice are actually eating parts of the potato that's died or been damaged, and the cell has died, and then they're burrowing in, eating that, but they're not actually eating the live part of the potato. Yeah, and it's the same thing with all plants.
Yeah, they're dead first, and then they'll attack the dead plant. Yeah, that makes sense.
They're actually doing this. They're actually doing us a favor. People think they're pests. That's the issue.
Yeah. So that's it, Robin.
I think it's the same insects in the garden. They just assume it's something that's going to be negative, and when you start throwing pesticides and things like that around, you just eradicate everything rather than being selective, because there are some things in the garden that are really beneficial. And like, for example, the leopard slug. People see these and they lose their crap all over these leopard slugs, but they are really good slugs to have in the garden because they eat other slugs, but everybody thinks, oh, it's a slug, I got to get rid of it, So you just need to be a little bit more careful in what you're attacking.
Just because they don't look very pretty, they're still good. You don't mind woodlice, Rob? Good. I think they're good guys.
Yes, being careful of volunteer tomatoes and potatoes staying alive and harbouring the blight. Yeah, absolutely.
And I've seen a few comments then saying that they found that, swapping over to no dig has made it beneficial to them. But, I personally think, you will have that bumper crop with when you first start no dig if you've got good compost and good feed. But like Tony said before, you have got to keep feeding the soil, and when something's been taken out of it, we need to be putting it back in, and that's kind of our job. We turn from being gardeners, no dig gardeners, and more maintenance people now, and they just keep maintaining the soil. And
what we're actually doing is farming microbes, because people don't realize it. And Steve from Digwell Green Fingers made a good point too. He's saying that woodlice are one of the few things that eat cabbage stalks in his compost, and the reason for that is because that woodlice absolutely love the lignin that's in the cabbage stalk, and it's a dead. You know, at that point when it's been cut and everything else, it's dead, but it's very fibrous. So that's like the perfect thing. You think about woodlice; they tend to really live well in like forests and stuff like that, and they're eating the lignin out of the trees that fall and stuff, and they do an exact same thing in your compost. It's perfect.
So the allotment newbie said, what is a bumper crop? I hear this a lot. So bumper just means that you've had like an extra crop of things. Like I know, Jane, you said you had a bumper crop of apples and...
It just means loads of.
Oh, this is the... There you go. There's Jane.
I was going to say that leads nicely into what have we all had bumper crops of this season?
Yeah.
Okay, apples, and more apples. And the more people I talk to about it, it seems like
it's been a good year for apples. I got tons of them on the floor up there. I couldn't give them away.
We
picking up the windfalls.
Yeah, we just kind of do it all.
We can't keep on top of them. There's so many.
Yeah. So I'm expecting next year we probably won't get any at all because
it's so good. Yeah,
so much energy this year sending the extra things out. But yeah, that's my one good crop this year. I don't know. How about you, Danny?
I'd say possibly my peppers for one. I did those North peppers, and they were just absolutely beautiful this year. And I had literally, oh God, I probably harvested 60 altogether now, and I still got a pile on again. They just keep coming and coming, and the only time I covered them, we used our mini polytunnel, was for the start of spring, and I've had it open all summer because of the heat, and that didn't impact on the crops or nothing. They just carried on, and that's the first time I've been able to grow peppers to that, because normally I just can't look after them very well.
Francis is saying that let me just find it. Sorry, guys, because I lost it now. This chat is moving so fast.
It goes so fast, which is great.
Yeah, it's riding by. But so Francis just said something there. Can soil prep get rid of next year's carrot root fly? The answer to that is no, because you're never going to remove those eggs and stuff that's in the soil. The best way to deal with carrot root fly is to raise your growing area. Get it above 2 feet, and you're not going to have a problem with it. Or use something like Enviromesh, and that'll prevent them getting all the carrots and laying there as well. But you're gonna, soil prep isn't going to deal with things like that.
No, and I found, like, I know they've improved and brought out carrots that are supposed to be root fly
resistant fly,
resistant. Like resist the fly and fly away is another one. But I tried them, and I found that the flavour wasn't quite there.
They're bland. Yeah, they are. Really. And the thing is, we all grow our own vegetables because we can then grow varieties you can't buy in the shops, and usually the flavour is much, much better. So why would we grow something that's bland just because it's not going to get attacked by the pests? If you're that worried about it, grow more and then let the pests have some, but you'll be able to take the rest,
What's interesting here is looking at everybody's bumper crops in the chat. Everybody's different.
Everybody's different.
Really, really. I mean, obviously, it's depends where you are in the world as well. But yeah, we've all had bumper crops of different things. It's not just been one thing.
Yeah, I think the microclimates that people have as well is, the thing. These, like Danny's only up the road from me, but he's got a totally different environment to what I've got here. Like we were saying earlier on, he's had sun all day and it's been hammering down with rain here. And we're just a few miles down the road.
Tony literally lives, 40 minutes away, and he was saying like he hadn't been able to get the garden today because he was literally belting down with rain. And it was actually baking with sun this afternoon. And I just thought, like, when we're literally a stone throw away from each other, so it's just you have to, with the garden, especially this time of year, you just take every day as you can. And it's like, Tony, every time is your day off, that'll be the day that it'll decide to rain.
It's frustrating the hell out of me, to be honest with you. Every time, like, I'm off now for 4 days, it'll rain for these 4 days, I'll go back to work, and then the sun comes out, and I'm in work cursing then, like,
So, Roo, what was your bumper crop this year?
So onions, absolutely brilliant this year.
Look at Roo's onions, eh?
Oh, really?
So that was 200 onions we got this year.
Yeah, roughly,
give or take.
And they're a good staple, isn't they?
Yeah. Well, we are. that's the last 2 years now I've had harvests like that. So we are self-sufficient now in our onions.
Yeah.
I've missed that this year. Our onions were terrible this year, and I've really missed them because they are a staple.
How do we all grow? I mean, I'm an overwinterer with sets, and I find that works for me, and that's what I stick with now.
Yeah. I do both. Like I do like quite a few. Over winter I do quite a lot, and then I tend to find that if I at the start of the year when I'm really craving those spring onions, I start pulling the mini ones out first, even though they were set. I just peel them off and I just start using them because I know I'm not going to need all of those in the beds by the time I want to put my next crop in. But that's what I've done it for a few years, and it's happy, works well for me.
I shove loads of sets in because I just want to get them in. But when we've done it from seed, they have been far and above the best things. They don't bolt. You get better crops. It's so well worth doing that little bit extra at the beginning. But saying that, I know I won't. Mike will.
Well, when you consider that onions are a biennial plant anyway, they flower on the second year. Effectively, a set is in its second year because they've stopped it growing. So all a set really wants to do is go to seed. And we're trying to prevent that. It just doesn't make sense to me. Now, don't get me wrong. I grow onions from sets just like everybody else. But, growing them from seed is far superior. You'll always have better onions for it. It's a bit more.
If your name's Roo, I cannot grow onions from seeds. I've given up.
Yeah.
But you're then balancing that sort of thing where the onion wants to go to seed and you're trying to stop that happening. So you've got to understand that some of them are going to go to seed, especially if we have a hot period like we had. You've had great onions this year and that's been great. But there'll be years that you'll come along and everything will just bolt on you, and that's just the way it is, and that's gardening, isn't it?
That's what makes it fun, isn't it? But any of the bumper harvests, anybody else? Pumpkins, my pumpkins were particularly good this year. Again, I think it was down to being able to water.
Yeah, we've grown no pumpkins this year. We had one butternut squash, and again we thought, well, why do we grow them for? They take up all that space and everything. And of course, this time of year, you're seeing other people get these beautiful things in. I really miss them, so definitely make space for them next year, I think.
Yeah.
I think quite a few people, Danny, have asked, I'm just putting you on the spot here. I've asked if this is going to be a regular chat. Because it's a one. It does say number one. I think we'll see how, I think you want to see how this one goes first, Danny.
Jane won't be on the next one. No, she will.
With a new mic. Microphone, not Mike.
Not Mike, her husband.
Not that Mike.
That's literally how I feel when she put a microphone on. Mike's going to kill me for doing that.
Oh, he's going to love it. He's going to love it. Yeah.
The limelight. Yeah,
Liz has had 20 butternut squash. That's brilliant. I thought I was doing well. I had about 10. So well done.
So Audrey said, I've never grown onions from... I've never... this chat is going so...
Never grown onion from sets. Is what I thought was best.
But Audrey's Audrey's good at everything though, isn't she? Like, have you ever seen Audrey say, I have failed this today?
Audrey's in the perfect environment, though. Bear that in mind. What I will say, Danny, while we're here, though, you still haven't answered the question of whether this is going to be a regular thing.
Yeah, he's avoiding that one, I think, too.
Are you going to be running lives on a regular basis? That's all the folks want to know.
My answer is, it's taken me a year to get to doing a live. And I mean, you all know that there's been nag after nag. And it's not that I didn't want to do it. I actually like talking, if you haven't noticed. I mean, like when we chat, I don't see why we don't, because we actually chat every week anyway, like this anyway. So nobody else is listening. And to be fair, I'm glad, because I think our sub count would go down. But there'll be another one. There will.
There's your answer.
There will be another one, but I do want to. There are other people. Like, it might not always be you three, and all that. I don't like you all, but there's other people.
I think what they meant was, is it just going to be a live, whether it's just you or other guests or whatever?
It's only because there are a few others that have asked as well. So you know, unless Jane sorts her mic out, then she might have to be bumped off.
She's not coming back.
I know. I'll get my coat.
No, you're fine, Jane. Yeah, I think it'll be. Yeah, we'll do another one, and you know why not? There'll probably be one in a month's time, I'm sure. Or if I have had a couple of glasses of wine, I might come on here on my own. So who knows?
Hey.
Yeah, that's the way.
There
It's
is
nice to have company, but sometimes.
So if we have missed your comments, generally, like, we're not being rude or ignoring you. Like, they're literally flying. I've not seen it. They're going so fast, the comments are, and I'm really grateful for that. But I will try and go back, and if I do miss any, I will go back tomorrow and I'll reply to some of the things if I can. But yeah, it's going.
Okay, can I just turn this on his head then while we're here? So, what was your worst crops?
Worst.
I'd say my onions.
Yeah.
So that's literally, this is all the onions I had for the whole year.
So there's Danny's. And what was Jane's like? Oh, Roo's, sorry. What was Roo's like, Danny? Oh, look at Roo's.
Winner, chicken dinner.
She won the onion. Like, I've actually got a plot holder down that I've mentioned on my channel quite a lot, of Mark, and he really grates in that I've got a big pile of onions behind that he gave me, and I've never credited him for them, and he always says, like, it always looks like you know what you're doing with onions. And I have been okay with onions, but this year I decided not to do as many. And the only reason I didn't is because I decided to grow from seed, and I actually failed massively on seed. I had like this I had like a little onion fly or something, and it ate all the roots off it when at the start or something. I'm not sure. But anyway, they all died and they all dropped over. So,
Rob, I'll be doing it next week, mate, just to answer your question. There you go.
What did Rob say?
You just asked when I'm doing my next live.
Rob, we're on this one. Let's think of the moment. Live in the moment.
Yeah, let's stay in the moment.
Steve's just
So, Jane, what was yours? Sorry, I just want to get around this because
onions, garlic, sweet corn, 3 courgettes out of about 6 plants. What happened there?
My courgettes were poor.
Would it be quicker to ask you what went well for you then, Jane?
Yes.
We're great. We're great.
My courgettes were poor this year, and my carrots were terrible.
Yeah. Oh, carrots.
My carrots were absolutely awful. Worst year I've ever had for carrots.
I thought
Nick's
a lot. Ivy then said he had a problem with a white rat, but I just realised it's white rot.
Yeah.
So,
big white rat.
For me, guys, for the first time in 15 years, it was potatoes. But I did know it was going to happen because I was testing all that peat-free compost. And of course, I did those tests just to sort of be able to see, you know, how bad it really was. And it just followed through with exactly what I thought. Yeah. And I won't be using it next year, put it that way.
So that was the time.
For me, it was potatoes.
So if you aren't aware, like, Tony has got a book out on compost, and so this is it.
Look at that grin.
That's not the picture he wanted me to show you. That's the one he wanted me to show you.
Give me 1 sec, guys. I just got to take this call a bit quick.
So if you're not up to date, and that I've got that book, and God, some of it in there I didn't even know about myself, and I was thinking, what? Like, I'm more of a brown and a green and putting it on, and then I read that, I thought I hadn't got a clue on compost. But I do agree that as gardeners, the way it's going with the quality of compost, I know we've talked about this before and stuff, that it's rubbish. And I mean, like Steve Digwell, you know, Green Fingers, he had so much peat-free rubbish this year. Oh, he's just commented now, and honestly, it ruined some of my crops as well by just having rubbish compost this year. And definitely.
I started a lot off seeds in peat-free, supposedly, like seed.
Jane, you sound lovely.
Have I gone funny again?
No.
Oh, okay. I am. What was I saying? Yeah, no, I started a lot of my seeds and seedlings in peat-free, and I'm sure that's what's knocked them back because, like I say, the amount of crops that have done badly this year for us, and we're not that bad, you know, we usually get half decent stuff. But yeah, it's the compost, and it's going to take a good few years, I think, before anything is settled. You know,
we were talking about that recently, weren't we? Compost and
yeah. I think what's happening with the compost at the moment is the fact that of course, you've got all the all of the councils and stuff picking up all this green waste which is going into it, and they're pulling in all these other ingredients from here, there, and everywhere. And the problem is, all this green waste, for all you know, has had like weed killers and all sorts put in it, which goes through the composting process, right? And then they're adding these really shitty, excuse my French, but shitty ingredients as well at the end of it, that's been stuck in the back of the car park for the last 10 years because they couldn't dump it anywhere. And they're now looking for this stuff to put in to bulk out the compost. I mean, earlier on in the year, I was showing photos of people with all burnt hands where they'd put their hands in like supermarket compost.
Well, I was one of them, wasn't I, Tony? I sent you the photograph.
And they burnt the skin on their hands. Like, compost should never be doing that. It's a living organism. You should never be burning yourself. If you ever put your hand into something like that and it burns yourself, you've got no business growing food in it, guys, right? So like, all I can do is say to you folks is that you know how you garden. You've got all this green waste at the moment that's coming off the garden. Get it into a compost bin and compost. Even if it takes it 12 months to break down, at the end of that period, you're going to have good quality, nutrient-dense compost that you can use in your garden. And if nothing else, and you take no other tip from anybody here today, take that one tip. Don't rely on the stores to produce you a quality compost, because it won't happen, and it ain't going to happen for the next decade.
You remember those times when you'd buy that compost and it was okay priced and it used to be rich black, and you just knew that it was the plants were, no, it was hit and miss. You'll have something, and like I've even grown seeds in compost and it's killed it. It's just killed them off. And I've had so many fails with that, and I think my onion seedlings started off with that as well. I think it was bad compost I started with, and then but this year I am going to do onion seeds again. So is there anything that you are going to grow next year that you failed on this year, or something new that you're going to try? And that goes out to you guys and to the comments, and we will try and answer some of the comments, but it's so quick.
They're flying, aren't they? Aubergines are what I'm going to try again. I tried them last season and I got flowers, but no aubergines. This year, I'll be honest, I didn't try them. So next year, I want to give those another go.
Yeah.
Just with your aubergines or eggplants or whatever you want to call them, UK, if we're having crappy weather, you need to hand pollinate them, right? That's, so
that might be where I went wrong.
Way of getting it. If you're having flowers and you're not getting fruit, you need to hand pollinate. But a good tip here is to water overhead, get the plant wet, because the water droplets can help move the pollen around.
So someone wrote, is Jack Magic's any good as compost? Now, I used to think that was amazing stuff, and then I used to swear by it, and then this year and a part of last year, I wouldn't even. I walk past it in the shop now.
They're all the same. It doesn't matter what compost it is at the moment. They're all crying out for ingredients to replace peat. And because they don't have that, they're all testing, and they're putting this, that, and the other in. And it might be coir and stuff like that. But of course, before they were buying peat by, the lorry load really, really cheap. And coir is not that cheap when you consider peat as well, So they can't just bulk it out with coir like they had been with peat, So
they just bulk it. So they are bulking it out with green waste now. That's the thing, and
and wood. Do you know what I found?
As well,
that's how I got Black Pass. It was just bags of compost.
Compost. Rubbish.
I am going to say the name of the company, and I opened a bag of B&Q compost, right, and it had a condom in it.
Oh.
So, it just shows you all they are doing is just grinding everything together, whatever they get. And, and it's stuff like that.
I think they're trying to produce it too quickly for multiple reasons. But I do believe that lockdown, an awful lot of people started gardens that hadn't done it before.
On the plus side, though, at least the staff are practicing safe sex. So there's a plus side to it.
Yeah, I once would do something in the bag, let me tell you. I'm just glad that I didn't go anywhere near it. Like, I saw it first, you know.
Did you complain, Tony? Did you complain to them?
Yeah, I did. They didn't believe me, but I complained to them.
They then sent in the right size, Jane.
I had the usual fob off, or we're sorry, but that couldn't have been in our compost.
Compost.
Yeah. Can I just say, Steve said a while ago now, if you've got any questions, to put them in capital letters.
Capitals, yeah.
Do stand out, because they are
one shot down and we missed it.
I think the biggest thing is, you know, when people are, you know, it's like the green waste and also your kitchen scraps and things like that, you know, your food, they get these little brown bins that they put all the waste food in. So those are also going off to these sites as well. And the problem is people tend to put them into bags and things like that. And occasionally like spoons and forks and things will end up in there. And they don't check none of this stuff. It just all gets put through a grinder. And then it's just put into these big, huge rows. And they have a machine that rides over the top of it, you know, spraying it down and turning it. So, you know, when you then get that, then you're pulling out all sorts of stuff out there, you know.
How long should I leave horse manure to stand before using it as compost? As a question just popped up.
I always use it at least a year.
Yeah, I leave it at least 12 months.
I turn it as well quite a few times.
It depends where you're getting it from, though, because if that horse manure has already been sat on the ground for a year, then it's pretty much ready to go. You know, it depends. If you're getting it straight out of the stable, then you need to really, you know, rot it down. But you know, some people are picking horse manure out of heaps that have been there for 10 and 20 years. Like, do you know what I mean? So it really depends.
I've got a good dealer that of horse manure just about half a mile away, and I could use it. I could use it straight away, but I still, because I'm always a year ahead with my delivery. I'm always leaving it for that extra year. So when I pull all the stuff,
it's fresh. Hall's Farm Allotment saying it's fresh. So yeah, you want to leave it at least a year.
Steve there is saying about wood chip being good in compost, but isn't there a problem with having too much wood chip on your beds in that they absorb the nitrogen, or
is it the decomposition that takes the
with wood chips, guys? If it's only on a surface of the soil, you're only removing nitrogen from a top couple of millimeters, okay, of soil, and that's not where your plant roots are anyway. All right, your plant roots down 6, 7, 8, 10 inches. Okay, so it makes absolutely no difference as a mulch. What you don't want to do is dig those wood chips into your soil, because if you do that, then you're robbing out the nitrogen out of the soil completely. So put it as a mulch, not a problem, but don't dig it in.
Yeah.
So and it's same goes for anything that is rotting, really, you know. And that's why you can't do trench composting and then sowing it straight afterwards, because it's just taking all of the nitrogen out of the soil in order to break that stuff down.
I'm just looking at what are the... So, awesome
birthday present, Francis.
Yes. These comments, honestly, I got a lovely horse manure for a birthday present last spring. I would be happy with that, because
I've had that before as a present.
Chicken and duck manure, is this safe as compost? Yes.
It's hot. Again,
very hot.
It's a case of making sure that it's completely rotted down.
Yeah, it's good, but again, you need to leave it for a good... Chicken manure is amazing, but again, like, leave it. Don't think chuck everything on, because it just burns everything.
You know, with compost, when you're trying different composts, people say do the bean test. So, you know, if you've got different sorts of compost, put your beans in there, the quickest thing to grow, and you can see, especially with that amino pyralid. So if you've got horse manure that you're worried might have been sprayed with the amino, stick a bean in it or mix it in with your compost, put a bean in, see it the bean first.
Yeah, but it's important to leave those plants get quite a bit of maturity, because what a lot of people do is they think, right, because it's germinated, it's okay, but the seed contains everything it needs for germination, right? So you need to allow that plant to go through the cotyledon stages of its leaves into true leaves. All right.
So Zinnia wrote on there that she was offered 2-year-old manure but the field was sprayed 3 years before. Like, would that affect it then 3 years
so,
later?
So it would stay in. It can stay in there for like 5 years. What I would suggest you do is what we've just said: is get a tray of it, plant in these bean seeds, let them go through. If they put out mature leaves that are nice and green, you're not going to have a problem, and it'll be okay to use. But if in doubt with anything, guys, leave it out. It's just not worth ruining your garden for.
I saw that video, Steve. It was very good, very good. Charles Dowding did one as well on the poisoning. If you're not,
there's a lot of people who've made videos on it now, and but it can absolutely destroy your crops.
Yeah. So do be
and like, I don't use nothing on my plot at all, like nothing, because I think we got to get out of that habit as well of, oh, there's a weed, let's spray it, let's get rid of it, because
I don't believe
keeping things in that soil, and then you're putting that in your mouth, and is also destroying the soil as well. So
it's all linked, isn't it? It's all linked. And if you're not one thing out, you're going to knock the others out as well. So
the biggest issue with a lot of people is, and this is why I think like green manure is a massive, and for those of you who've been here, you'll know that like I've got 4 dustbins of green manure seed. That's how much of it I grow. And the thing is that the green manure is covering that soil. And this is the important factor, especially this time of year, when people are ripping out all of the veg now and they're not sowing anything else. That microbial life that you've worked so hard to build in that soil will die if you don't feed it. You really need to grow something in it. And it's why nature covers soil with weeds, because it has to support the microbial life that's in the soil, and it stops erosion and stuff like that. Now, the green manure will stop the erosion as well, because it acts when all this rain is bashing down in the winter. It prevents all that soil being washed away, all the nutrients being washed out. And again, some green manures, they're accumulators, so they will actually take all the nutrition out of the ground, and they will store it in their roots and these little nodes, and then release it back after you've cut it down. So it's a great way of holding the nutrients, and it doesn't get washed away through winter. But it's really important to feed that microbial life. So like Danny was saying, when it comes to weeds and stuff, the last thing you want to do is absolutely like hoe off every single piece of your garden and just leave bare soil there. You've got to be growing something in there, or covering mulch or something. It's really important.
And like another thing that my plot, I try and keep it as tight as I can, and that's I would ideally in the real world wouldn't like to have nets over my beds either, but I try and make it look as good as I can. But at the end of the day, I like keep my nets on all year round, because the weed seed blow in, and I think that's sometimes like we all take all our covers off sometimes, but as long as if they're not covering those beds, they're just allowing things to go into them as well, And I see that a lot. Like a lot of the plots, they just leave their plots over winter, and then they come back in spring, and they spend weeks then trying to sort out all these weeds that they could have prevented in the long run, And
I think it is and this is why your book, Tony, is so good, because we're learning more about soil. People tend to look at their gardens and they think the live bits are the plants, and they're the green bits that go up, they're the roots that go down. The soil is just seen as a medium to put it.
And that's the thing. The problem is people look at soil as, well, it's the soil that is going to feed my plants and everything else, and they don't seem to realize that you're not actually feeding the soil. It's why it's the byline is feed the soil, not the plants, because you're actually feeding the microbial life. And it's these are going around, they're eating each other, they're defecating, and the smaller things are eating, being eaten by bigger things, and vice versa. And then you have like the macros that come along, then like the worms and stuff like that, and the wood lice that we spoke about earlier. All of this stuff goes in, and there's a whole world underneath the soil that you don't know nothing about. And all of this activity is going on. It's what creates good aeration in your soil. It's what creates good moisture content in your soil, and managing that, you haven't even got. We're not here to manage the plant's growth. We're here to manage that soil life. And you manage that, growing plants is going to become really easy for anybody who manages that down there.
So Nick's allotment diary said, what seed should you use for green manure? Like I use field beans.
Field
That's
beans.
just that's the thing that I always like growing. But
and they're also a good nitrogen fixer as well. Hairy vetch is really good, and there are like Steve said earlier on, there are things like radish and clovers and stuff like that that actually can be used like a biofumigant. So if you've got pests and disease like white rot in your soil, you can actually kill that off with these green manures because they're a biofumigant. And things like radish and clovers and stuff like that, they can be used as a biofumigant to eradicate these sort of pests and diseases from the soil.
Yeah, Amia's allotment said mustard green's good as well.
Yeah, mustards are good. Yeah. But again, with green manures, a lot of them are ideal for like ground covers through like spring and summer, like mustards. But as soon as you get the first frost, they're going to die. So you need to go to things then like the field beans, the hairy vetches, the ryegrass, all of these things. And I've got a bed at the allotment at the moment that I didn't grow in this year. And it's about 3 feet high and it's spread all over the place. And I just mixed the whole thing in there. You know, I will be doing all my other beds very shortly as I pull stuff out, you know. But you can tailor the manure, you know, with a cover crop for what you think you're going to be planting next year. So it's really good.
So Graham says, go on.
Graham, can I just ask, I'm asking you this, Tony, about the ryegrass. I remember years ago we had a mixed, you can get the mixed green manure seeds, can't you? A little bit of everything in it. And we were really worried about the ryegrass because we thought, oh my goodness, spend all this time trying to get it out of the soil. And then you're planting it in.
The grass that you got in the soil isn't right, because when you top a ryegrass, the roots die anyway. And it's another thing about green manures, you can dig them in, but if you're no dig, like a lot of people are these days, then just hoeing the top off like a chop and drop is really good, because you've left that mass of roots within the ground that the microbial life is still going to feed on. And as they rot and die, that's creating all of those water networks for holding water through the summer and things. So it's, you know, this is what we were on about earlier on, about building soil from starting from now. You know, it's not something you can do a couple of weeks before you want to plant in the garden. You've got to be thinking about it now. And this is when people say, oh, I only grow in the summer. You know, we may not be growing plants all the time, but we are looking to grow plants for next spring now.
Yeah, exactly. You know? Like I don't stop all year round. I might slow down through the autumn and winter, but I don't stop. My growing space is constantly... You know, I could never imagine just growing just for summer. Like I find that strange for me, because I always think, okay, there's the next thing. And I think the best organized in the world are gardeners, even though we are quite disorganized in some ways. And we might go off on a tangent, Jane, but like we do, I really enjoy that. I enjoy that, planning the next seed, putting that in, sowing that, and try. And there's a little bit of pressure in it that you get them at the right time and stuff. But I've kind of learned now that I just think it's going in now whenever whatever fits my life, and that's about it.
There's no doubt at all that it does slow down. It does. It slows down. There's less pressure to get up there every day, twice a day, or whatever. You know, you can put stuff in and you know, manage it. But I mean, this begs the question. We were talking about this before we came on air, about how many people in the chat perhaps actually put their garden to bed as this time of year and then walk away. Because I know people who do it absolutely fine. If that's what suits them, that's what suits their lifestyles. Just walk away a few months later, come back, start again. You know, I think it's valid. It's not
I find the winter's a really good time to get them projects then that you want to do. And, you know, I was telling Danny, I've had a tree root go through my pond and it's drained my pond. So now I've got to go and sort that out. And while I'm at it, I'll make that pond bigger. You know, I've still got coal frames I want to finish building. And, you know, so all of those tasks that got sort of sidelined because all of a sudden we were sowing seed and, you know, watering and stuff. You know what it's like? It takes over your life, doesn't it? You know? So all of those projects that you were halfway through sort of got pushed aside. Well,
Yeah.
now I can get back to finishing those, you know.
But I love that. I love that this time of the year, it's that preparing and sorting and getting all those little jobs
Clearing
done.
up.
And where it looks really neat and tidy. And then by the time it comes to spring, you're ready. I mean, I keep a few things growing, but I do love that we can catch up with all those projects at this time of the year.
Yeah.
Our allotment is the rent is due in October.
Yeah,
so
same.
Like quite an odd thing. And a couple of new people have taken on plots on our site, and they're saying, well, it's a funny time of year though, isn't it? It's October, you know, we're not really going to be doing this till March. And I said,
everything.
Grasp this time.
And they don't realise that that's the time that's going to give them all of that time for the prep and everything else, you know.
And they don't realise the pressure that will come in a very nice way in a few months' time. You know?
I think that, you know, we live in a part of the world as well, which we're quite lucky that we haven't got to keep catching up. Like, you know, Jim has all that snow, and you see, you know, a lot of other gardeners, Ali and all, they all have this snow that
people commenting that they have snow or
they literally have to stop because, and they have to wait for that snow to warm back up. And I think, you know, we put ourselves under pressure in Britain, but I don't know how they cope because they're constantly trying to catch, and then they get all this intense heat then as well.
But you see that, Danny, right? And the people who get like 3 feet of snow and 4 feet of snow, that snow is acting like a blanket, so it actually keeps the ground warmer, and they can actually overwinter quite a lot of plants within that. It's the people that have, like us, who drop down to like -6, and we've had wet weather before, and then the ground freezes because it's open to the air, whereas the snow will actually protect the ground. So, you know, but it's all like pretty much a match when you think about it, because we're all used to growing in a specific thing. You know, like the folks in Australia, they're used to growing in the tropical environment out there and what have you, if they're up in like the Queenslands or whatever. And then there are others in Australia with arid conditions to grow. And you just learn to grow in your current location. You know, Danny, if you came down here, you probably wouldn't be able to deal with all the water I have to deal with. Like, do you know what I mean? You know, it's crazy. And you're
the dodgy fireman I always try and watch out for.
But like Audrey said in the chat, you know, she's going to be, her ground will be frozen for the next few months.
Yeah.
But I know, Audrey, you've got grow lights, and that's the way you've adapted to being able to grow through that. It's all about adapting to whatever you've got around you.
So Graham Bolton asked Tony, can I just use tons of leaves and manure without putting cardboard down first? Or do I have to cardboard first?
Right. Okay. So all the cardboard's fault, and I think this is a problem that a lot of people, when they first look at no dig and things like that, they think, oh, I've got to put that layer cardboard down because they've seen so many gardeners doing it. Right. All that layer of cardboard is for is a barrier to stop the weeds growing through into the compost. Right. So if first off you've got no weeds, or you've just got bare soil, you don't need it at all anyway, because it's probably going to rot before them weeds even start coming up. And you can just chuck the compost and the leaves down. But it's about the depth of soil that you put on top of it, because what you're looking to do is emit light. And that's what the cardboard does, okay? But if you haven't got cardboard, don't worry about it. Just slam that down. If you put a deep enough layer, it's going to block the light to those weeds and they'll die off anyway and they'll just rot. So, but you haven't got to use the cardboard and then like manure and leaves and stuff like that. But if you've got it handy, use it. It's not an issue.
Yeah. So if we are, oh God, I'm knocking my bloody thing again. So if we are missing your questions, try and put them in capital, because I'm trying to go through them as well and catch up, but I can't catch up with them all, but we are trying.
Put your questions in capitals and we're more likely to catch them.
I'd like to ask Steve what he means by what we're chatting about now is it's just gone off the screen. I don't know what that's.
There's a lot of broadcasts on YouTube. They just say what to grow.
It sounds awful sassy, Steve.
Hard to find the ones that give info on prep of beds and feeds throughout the year. I think you're saying you're liking what we're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, because Steve, you were a bit sharp with that one.
I only got half of it and it disappeared.
So what what did you mean by that one, Steve? Because it did come out a bit sharp, and
I know what he means by that one.
I want to know what he means. Come on,
We're all
do
waiting
not.
now. We're all waiting now.
Graham said, I think 5-inch depth, mate.
Yeah, 6 inch Graham is fine. You haven't got to worry. As a good base, and then after that, just 1.5, 2 inches as a top up will be fine.
And I think when you're asking about leaves, I used leaves, literally raked the leaves up, and they were nice and damp, and I threw them all down. But I did have to put something on top because they would have just blown away. But I had fantastic compost, soil after that, after putting a load of leaves down.
While we're on leaves, guys, I just add, because I've had this question quite a lot lately, is people are always saying when they're making compost, they always struggle for the browns. Now's the time to get out there and bag up a shed load of leaves. They're a free resource, and they can just sit in a part of the garden out of the way until you need them to add to your compost when you've got loads of greens and no browns. So just go and collect as much as you can now and just stick them behind a shed somewhere. And then when you need some browns, you just go and grab a bag, rip it open and tip it in. So, it's about thinking, forward thinking about what you may need later and then storing it.
Like, not many people know this about Tony, but he is like the ultimate squirrel for collecting things in bags. And I've been there, and he's like, yeah, that's for later on. It's like, what? There's like so many, he stores everything for a rainy day, which is good, but I'm not that efficient. Like, I always think, I'll pick up the leaves, and then they've all blown away then.
Yeah, but look, I'm making like between 10 and 15 ton of compost a year. So, to do that, you need to bring resources in. You can't just get it all out of your garden. And, so I've got gardeners who will go out and mow people's lawns and stuff. So they manage the whole garden. So I know there's no pesticides and herbicides being used. So that's all good. So I have all that green waste coming in. Well, of course, there's brown. So I'll buy things like straws, and I'll get offices that will give me shredded paper, and then there'll be leaves that I'll go and collect. So you just got to think of all of these things that you can pull in and think, right, that can be stored now. The next batch of greens I know I've got the browns. I can just mix it all, and I've now got another cubic meter of compost.
Heidi's asking about which leaves to use. So this time of year with all your autumn,
because you don't want. I mean, obviously your evergreen leaves aren't going to be on the ground. So things like your pine, you've got to be careful about that sort of thing, haven't you? But your deciduous trees.
So your oaks and your beeches, things like that, are going to take a lot longer to break down than the likes of your maples and things. So your hardwoods will take much, much longer to break down because of the lignin content within the leaf. But otherwise, they will all break down. And if you're making leaf mold, they'll be much slower. But in compost, they're gonna break down quite rapidly.
Yeah.
So shall I have a look at what else that we discussed? So, I don't know why I've got this down. So, like, obviously, we all went to Malvern, and so many people have commented asking. The only reason I brought this up is because I went through my Instagram to try and see some of the questions where I have answered, but they were asking about you guys as well. So they were asking whether or not we will all be going to Malvern again in spring, because a lot of them are making plans to go to the spring one. So I am. So
all being well, it just depends on my rota patterns and so on. But I'll definitely
Jane, I've got myself a trolley now. We'll be there together.
Oh, it is a trolley now. I thought it was a man truck.
Danny, you haven't been to the spring one before, have you? And it's a completely different animal.
I haven't done the spring. I've only done the autumn.
Right. Okay, so the spring one is a completely different animal to the autumn show, because the spring one, they set out all these gardens, and they will spend weeks and weeks and weeks building these gardens for design. And it's fantastic because you can get in and get some fantastic ideas.
So
more importantly, I can pick up lots more house plants. And but the good thing about it is you can just see about reusing ingredients or products that have been discarded elsewhere to really good effect. And it gives you loads of ideas and stuff. I mean, when I went and filmed it a few years ago, much to Monty Don's dismay, he had to wait because every time he wanted to get on a garden to interview someone, I was there interviewing them, because I wanted to pull all that information out of them, and it's a fabulous place to not only network but to pick up ideas and stuff like that.
It is mainly, like Steve on it is mainly flower shows and show gardens, though, isn't it?
There's no vegetables because it's not the right time of year. So, like, you haven't got a giant veg or anything.
Can't show anything, yeah.
To be honest, though, I probably would have gone there if it was half of what was there anyway, because I actually enjoyed it more that it gets a few of the YouTubers together. We meet people that we essentially we work with. Like, we work with other YouTubers in a way, a network, and it's nice that you can actually meet the person. Yeah. Rather than just an email or just a like a group chat.
Yeah,
like this,
it was nice to sit down and have lunch, wasn't it? That was just really
nice. It was. Yeah, it was. And the fact that Roo's gluten free as well, that helped because it helped me find some food. Graham is saying that he worked in Malvern for 17 years, and this year he's going to go and enjoy it for a change.
Oh, that's
amazing!
And that's brilliant because, like I said, that's why I don't film at Malvern anymore, because I was so busy worrying about what I was filming, I was actually missing the show.
Yeah.
And so you guys know, I didn't take a camera or nothing this year with me for that reason, because I just want to go and absorb and meet people and stuff like that. So
and that was lovely.
Roo went for a tortoise, didn't you, Roo?
Eh? Oh, tortoise! Yes, I did pay my £3 to go in the giant tortoise.
But I generally did think it was good, though. You know what I mean? Like just to catch up all the YouTubers together, and it was just
it's amazing. It's amazing.
And you realise how many short ones there are, and how tall some of them are. And
this is where you should be putting the picture in. But you have.
I already planned this.
Beautifully done.
A mug shot.
Yeah, there we are.
You know what? The thing that I loved about it the most was, and I think that, I'm not saying, it's like some people do want to meet people that they watch on YouTube, and that is a perfect time, really, because, I'll say hello to anyone in Tesco's and stuff like that, but it is a bit of a better, setup when someone's come to say hello and stuff there. So it was, and I actually was, out of everyone, I wanted to meet Muddy Boots, and I watched his channel for years, and then when I met him,
Nigel's lovely as well as a person.
Oh,
and I think that's the thing. Couldn't you see people, on camera and things like that? You're seeing one side of them. It's like a lot of people, only see one side of me when I'm on my videos, or they only see one side of Danny. But then when they get to know me as a person, like I've got this other side to me that they only just sort of come around and they're like, Christ, where did that come from? Because they're not expecting it, or they may see a little bit of it on someone else's live stream or something,
But Nick,
I bumped into someone in Malvern, and they said, "Oh, you smile as much as you do on your channel," but we thought you'd be grumpier in real life.
It's lovely, but it's worth going. It's worth going to both the shows. I think for all of us, it's probably about the same amount of time.
Yeah, it's kind of central-ish, isn't it?
But if you see it as like a once or twice a year thing, I mean, Amir's just said he's just in Gloucestershire. Get over there. It's worth it. It really is worth going. So yeah. And
it was a bit of fun as well. So what else have I got written down to try and prompt this along? So we are planning on going to Jane's plot at some point.
Yes,
that's my fault. It was supposed to be today, but it's my fault. So.
Ooh, Danny spoilt it all.
Oh no, so many different circumstances though. When you've got three people.
Yeah, it just wasn't the day, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So Steve said only paying the
Steve just said he's only paying the £18 to get in so Danny can buy him a drink.
Is Danny buying the drinks? Drinks on Danny.
Well, Steve bought them last time, so he wants it back now.
You know what? I drank that knowing that came out of that man's pocket. It was the best pint I ever had.
Amelia, if you're meeting me in a fire, you're having a very bad day.
Yeah. But
So,
no. Ali's asking, is that apple juice, Tony?
Sorry?
Ali's asking, is that apple juice?
Yeah, it's an apple juice called Skinny. very, very special apple juice. Right? It's only
Special apple juice.
5.4%.
Oh, and apples.
So,
Like what's
Pam
this?
Clark has said,
It's
Jane,
a
where are you in the
gluten-free
UK?
lager. And I deserve
Pam.
it today after the week I've had in work.
I'm in.
Pam Clark have asked, where are you in the UK, Jane?
Yeah, I'm in Staffordshire. So, it's the West Midlands, really. It's sort of. It's not really anywhere. It's just like I always think it's
In the middle.
You're selling it well, Jane.
It's Middle Earth. That's where she lives.
Manchester above 40 miles, Birmingham below about 40 miles. So somewhere in that belt going across. Not far from Roo, who's on the Welsh border.
Half an hour-ish from me.
40 minutes.
If anyone wants Jane's,
Hey,
if anyone
Nigel,
wants
you've
Jane's
missed
address,
everything.
it is for sale.
It's what? Say again.
I said, if anyone wants Jane's address, it is for sale. I do accept PayPal.
Right. I'm nice
So-
and cheap.
So Whole Farm Allotment just said would like to see Malcolm on the guest. So that's the reason why I said that. You know, Malcolm will be coming on one of these lives because Malcolm is. He is. I've always called him the godfather of my channel because he was the person who said, "You're a character and you garden, so you should have a channel." And he kept on, and it was him really that made me put my camera up because I was adamant I wasn't going to do it. And if it wouldn't
And
have
that's
him,
it now. You can pick people as and when you want to come on as guests on your channel now, isn't it?
So,
I've asked Malcolm, and I know I suppose I'll have to have Digwell green fingers on you at some point if I have to. Do you know what I mean?
Can I
Just to
just
roughen
say
it up
that?
a little bit.
the one who's
What?
just. I don't know if you saw this, Nigel, but we were all just saying how lovely you were, and you've just come on the chat. So, hands down to Nigel.
There he is.
You're lovely.
Next to Tony O'Neill.
Yay!
Next to me.
You get
He's a good old boy, Nigel.
Yeah.
Yeah, we was just saying, Nigel, that like you was the highlight of me going to Malvern because I watched your channel for so many years, and then you was the one person that I really you kept out of the way from me for so long, and all the others I've met or I've spoken to, and then it was nice to put a name to a face.
You're digging that hole, Danny.
Some would say I was a social
You're
media.
digging. I thought you were no dig, Danny.
No, I did actually really want to meet Muddy Boots. So I was glad that he came.
Sorry, my dog's coughing. Stop that.
So we've talked about putting the allotment to bed, or the plot, or the
Or
whatever
not.
whatever you call it, community garden, shared garden, plot, allotment. It's one of those things, isn't it? We've discussed quite a lot recently about how people outside the UK might not know what an allotment is, and in fact, some people in the UK don't really know what it is. So
This conversation, Jane.
You know what? I wish the world knew what an allotment was.
With you again.
Oh, thank you, Robin Miller, for saying that. Glad you took the leap to YouTube. Oh, I'm not normal, am I? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So Ali just messaged me privately and said, basically, she said you should have a moderator on there, and I actually have got a moderator on today, so I'll just give him a bit of appreciation. So Will. From the Flying Garden channel.
Give me a second, guys.
He has got. I might press the right button here and get his plot up. Yes, she's got a beautiful plot,
Beautiful.
and he is. That picture doesn't do it justice, does it, Jane and Roo?
Yes,
Like
it
he's really trying, and he has got a channel as well. So I have put all the channels that are on.
Fabulous.
Yeah, I put them all in the description so other people can go along and do their little thing, subscribe, and also. Don't forget to click like on this as well. So pop the little like button down there now so I know that you've watched this and it will boost the channel. And but just say thanks. Like thanks, Will, for
bye, Lisa.
Bye, Lisa. Thanks for coming.
Thank you
so
much
I have
for
got a
joining us.
moderator on. It is the Flying Gardener. So he's donated his time tonight. Bless him. And thank you so much for helping us out and keeping us all in check and removing all the swear words.
But also well worth going to see his channel. Well, go and
have a look. He's just started a channel and he is trying his hardest. So and he's got us three plongers looking after him. So
Poor lad.
What else? So where was that? I just seen a comment saying about my plot. So they said that I haven't mentioned my new plot for a while, but I have. But I haven't mentioned it because I'm going to do the dramatic thing, which I always do, of doing quite a lot on there and then being like,
you being
ta-da!
dramatic, Danny.
Steve.
Yeah. So is Steve being naughty again?
Naughty. I quite like that, actually. It's making me chuckle.
Yeah, like the plan is on my new plot is to me and Tony, Tony's going to come down. I'm probably going to have to buy him breakfast for this or something. We're going to redo the Polytunnel, and I want it to.
Wait, that's news
I'm
to
not
me.
going to talk about what I'm doing to my Polytunnel, but I've told Jane and stuff like and Roo what I've kind of got planned to do it, and it's not what any other YouTuber has done to their Polytunnel. And when Tony sees, I'm not going to tell Tony until he turns up, and he's going to go, mate, what have you done? But it'll be on camera. So yeah,
I got my work cut out tonight.
So I got a few ideas about my Polytunnel that I don't think anyone else has done, but they're going to be done. So regardless, so we have to just work around me, Tony. But let me show you something. So my Polytunnel, I have to give credit for Roo this as well. So Roo, I'm trying to find the Polytunnel picture that I have. This might be Roo's, is it? Yeah. So this is the reason why. Roo, this is yours, right?
That's my. Oh, that's the fan. Yeah, there's the solar-powered fan.
Oh,
yes,
That's what I
indeed.
can show you the fan.
That is my Polytunnel.
Roo, can
So
I just
want to
ask
add one of
you?
those fans in.
Sorry.
Can I just ask you about that road that runs alongside you there? Because there's not much of a fence there, is there? So your garden.
Yes.
So what is that road that runs along there? Because I've seen cars come past there as you've been talking in videos.
Oh,
She's a tourist attraction.
It is. Yeah. I'm like, hello. It's just the road to our local village.
Wow, that's got to be so hard to film. You must be like stopping and starting all the time.
Yeah, you kind of get used to it, and there's like rush hour times of the day, and it depends. It's quite nice, you know. People peep me, and I like it.
You got to head down and bum up.
That's it. Yeah. And the wagons come past. Yeah.
Roo's got one of those signs that says "honk if you're horny" across the fence. That's what.
Who will? Oh, I can imagine.
Whoa, Muddy Boozy, better stay away from the Stanley knife across my Polytunnel.
Oh my!
I think if you got inside shot of my Polytunnel there as well.
Nigel, I can't believe you'd think that of me.
I think so, Roo. Let me have a look. Roo, I'm looking for your Polytunnel.
You're looking for my Polytunnel.
I
love my Polytunnel. It's the place I am at my most happy.
Let me see if I've got it.
When all around me is just falling apart, Polytunnel is the place to go.
That's where you go and ponder, isn't it? Your ponder.
I do indeed ponder from my Polytunnel.
Yeah,
at least
I
once
actually love the inside of your poly. Like Tony's is like an absolute arena. Like if you go there, it is an arena for, and he fills it. And I just think, God, how does he fill this? But when you go there, it echoes. That's how big it is. Here's Roo's, and I think that looks really romantic, and you know, it looks like she lives there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, you know, when we're finished, I'll be climbing into one of my veg beds and pulling up my duvet.
Whoever ever had too many wines and slept in there, I wonder.
I think going back to the questions,
There'd have to be a sofa in there for me.
Yeah.
There's one we missed. Ooh, probably about half an hour ago from Lisa, asking if there's any experiments we're going to do next year. Now she's just gone, so you know. But it was just anything you're going to experiment with, anything you haven't tried before next year, seed wise. Not necessarily variety, so not necessarily a different variety of tomato, but a completely different crop that you're going to try that you've never tried before.
I think Steve Digwell, I think he's going to try Heinz 1350 again this year, and Brad's Atomics, because I gave him seed that I bought, and I bought specifically for him because I sent so much Brad's Atomic and the Heinz out, but for some reason Steve's, they must have been cross-pollinated from somewhere, because he had like pointy Brad's Atomics. Now, honestly, they look like little elf hats. Like, it were ridiculous.
What were you going to say for a minute?
And his Heinz 30, they were like cherry ones, and mine were like big bumper tomato. I just think he's just not a very good gardener, is he? Let's be honest. Let's just point out you like this.
Oh, Danny, you're picking a fight there, pal.
Steve.
Careful. Thank you for all the Polytunnel love in the comments. Much appreciated.
But I did the same though. I was waxing lyrical about Brad's Atomic, and I sent some down to Paul Savidon to try, and I said, honestly,
they got beautiful flavour.
It's just intense. And he got in touch with me and said, "This Brad's Atomic," he said, "just tastes like water." It's just, and I said, "No, you're not doing it right. You know, there's something wrong. You've grown it wrong, or they're not ripe, or whatever." And he said, "Well, it was so ripe it fell off the plant."
Oh, Leanne.
Actually, I tasted one of mine, and it was the same. It was completely bland. So there must be. I don't know if it's saved seed, but
I wonder if it's reverting because
yeah, well, that's what I thought.
you know, because the ones that I had off you, Danny, they were really beautiful on flavour. And we know, look, you know, if it's been crossbred at some point, then sometimes plants will revert back to one of their parents, and they may have only been the look of the one parent that they wanted.
I think what happened was I bought the ones for Digwell Green Fingers. I bought those on free, and because you couldn't get them by this point.
Yeah.
But the ones that I gave to you, Tony, and I sent others around, I had those off Ali, you know, our seed pixie. So she sent me a pack of those. So that's, and I was just dispersing out those little seeds. I was giving, and it sounded like I was being really tight. I was sounding like 5 out. You know, I was like a seed dealer in December, January, and I sent them out to everyone who wanted them because I knew how they were so expensive. I think I funded half the YouTubers at December for Brad's Atomics, and I didn't. You know, they do cost a fortune. They know there's a market for them, and they do taste. If you get them right,
they're amazing. But then has just said she didn't like them either. So maybe you have to try a few.
Maybe there's some dodgy seed flying around as well. Talking of seed dealers, though, I keep expecting the police to come knocking my door with all these plants I got in this office at the moment, because you can see them through the window and just look like cannabis plants, like, you know? So kicking my door down or something.
Big shout out to Ali.
Tony, I think you should pan around and show him like while we talk. While you look at this room.
Massive shout out to
This is my
office. Thank you, Ali.
Look at that, it's beautiful.
Woohoo!
I've got a load of plants in the cabinets. I've got plants up there. Or plants over here.
Oxygen.
There's you lot on the camera.
Yeah, that's why I'm so happy tonight.
Now I got to try and get my camera right again. Now look.
So, like, talking about like another person, like I just want to show appreciation to, and I know we all do appreciate her, is Ali, and you know she's got her YouTube channel, Rusty Gardener's Place, and
hop over.
Generally does need that appreciation because she deserves it, because she if you're a YouTuber gardener and you're not having seeds sent by Ali, she either don't like you or you're a nobody in the world, because she will fund. So if you're watching this and you're a YouTuber and Ali hasn't sent them, she doesn't like you.
The allotment newbies.
No, Ali sends them to everyone. We all get them, so we're all right.
The allotment newbies said we need a house plant tour. I will get around to doing some of that for these, because I will be doing videos on house plants and stuff very shortly.
Yeah, she's great.
The allotment newbie, when you've been around for a while, will you become the allotment oldie?
Yeah, I was going to ask you.
You have to have a channel name change.
Yeah, what happens when you know what you're doing? Then you know, if you're an allotment newbie now, and then you get to a point where you think,
if you go to the allotment oldie,
are you still going to call yourself
an allotment wannabe in there then?
Or the allotment maybe, you know,
we can see the progression there.
Like, what if Ali won the lottery and put all brand new stuff in her garden? Would it not be called the Rusty Gardener's Place anymore?
Well, no, baby, it's because Ali is the Rusty Gardener.
Hey,
sorry,
guys,
Ali.
Look, having a name change is good for your channel. I'm pretty
apparently so.
Right? So don't worry about it.
I don't know. Going back to the question, which was, it was. What are you going to try next year? Steve has just said he's going to try freezing his garlic before planting.
Yeah.
He's going to what, sorry?
Freeze it.
garlic before planting?
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. I've heard of people do. I cannot grow garlic.
It's just
I love
another
garlic.
form of vernalization, isn't it? Because
Right.
garlic needs that sort of
Like
30
that.
to 60 days,
Yeah.
cold temperatures below around about -3 to really get splitting well. So the freezer is an ideal place to do it in, but I wouldn't leave it in it too long. Because
So you
Thank
just
you,
literally,
Leanne.
I haven't planted mine yet. So
Yeah.
literally just break it into cloves, put it in the freezer in whatever, 3 days, plant it.
yeah, I mean, I tend to put mine in the crisper drawer in the fridge. But this time of year, you don't even need to do it because we're going to have that over winter anyway, right? But it's only tends to be if you're going to be planting like early spring or something like that, where you may not quite get enough cold weather. But if you're planting this time of year, then you haven't got a problem with it.
Nigel's being very naughty.
Thank you, Leanne.
He
Thank you
is.
very much.
He said someone who changes the channel name more often than the Prime Minister.
Prime Minister.
Ooh.
One of our Prime Ministers had the same name as well.
Oh dear.
So,
is there any?
yeah, someone else has said, is this going to be a regular snot?
Regular
slot?
slot.
What?
Let me check my sub count, and I'll tell you if it's going to be a regular.
He's gonna see now whether he's losing subs.
Let me see if I've lost at least 5 subs. I'm not coming back on you.
Or ever.
You might not see it yet, Danny.
Don't say that, Toadie.
Ali, don't you jump on the Nigel train?
-20.
Oh dear. I think
No. Yeah, I'll do another night now.
20 garlic, and they've all come up.
Oh,
Fantastic.
I've lost 1.
wow, well done.
It was me.
It was Steve Digwell. It was.
He's
Hey
gone.
guys, look what I've told you before. Losing subs is all right because it means that they're not invested in you as a person, so it's not an issue. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I at the end of the day, like, I'm really grateful for my subs and for people who view my channel. But if they don't want to, or I'm not for them, that's okay, because I wouldn't want to go into a pub and have, I wouldn't sit by a person who said, I'm my type of person, and that's okay. I'll just.
We're not for everybody, are we? I mean, every single one of us here have got our own personalities. We've got our own little quirks and things like that. And that doesn't come across to everybody. You can't please all the people all the time. All you can do is be yourself, and those that like you will stick around.
So Ali just said apparently it was me I never watched. So that's comment. So remember when we went through my analytics the other day and we noticed there was nobody Canadian watched. So she said that analytics. So I messaged saying, can you explain this?
Right.
They said 0% of Canada watched my channel that episode. So she sent me a screenshot back saying, I did though, I did.
Yeah, it's based on average, so it will say 0 if it's like if Ali's the only person watching in Canada. Yeah, that's it. You're never going to see it.
Oh, higher Alan's allotment.
But what I will say, for anybody who's ever thinking of a channel, not just us guys, but everybody else as well, just be yourself, guys, and those that like you for you are going to stick around, and it will build over time. I mean, I lose subs from time to time. It's just the nature of the beast, so don't be afraid of it, and just do what you come to do, and that's make good videos for you lovely people out there.
Yeah.
So Lisa Hawk said, I like your channel, but I thought this would be more about gardening. But we've talked.
Must have come in late.
Yeah,
Lisa, you must have just come in. Honest to God, we haven't stopped talking about compost, soil, and we've been going about everything. I think you might have just come here now, just as we're having a bloody.
Alan's got a question. I have a small plot and new. Could you guys recommend any YouTubers best to watch? You're looking at them.
I'm not. Well, I recommend Roo, Tony O'Neill, Jane. I'm not recommending anyone. No. I think I'm the worst though. I do this more, I think, than many people. I forever recommending channels on my channel, and I get told off for that. But I kind of like this community thing, and I like the fact that that there's like a nice network, and if they, we all should be working together and looking after each other, because
100%.
we all know if anyone watches anyone's channels or you're thinking about doing a YouTube channel, it is a tough gig. Like, it's not as easy as people think. Like, they either say, oh, you're promoting this, blah, blah, blah. I didn't want to watch that on your channel. It's like the amount of hours that go into editing, filming, and even making a thumbnail and doing all those things for a video. It is a good amount of your week. And you all know that.
I mean, the easiest thing to do is a live stream, right? And look at the prep that's happened for today. I mean, we're all live.
You wouldn't believe how many, honestly, you wouldn't believe how long.
Yeah. Just
Well, Alan,
really wouldn't.
everything right and working.
I think my advice to you, Alan, is I don't know where you are in the world or in the country, but try and follow somebody if you're wanting advice on growing. Somebody's got a similar plot size to yourself. You know, watch a few channels and videos, and somebody who's in the same kind of climate as you, because that's going to help you.
And then you should get recommended videos according to what you watch. So,
like,
you can scale that down. So even if it's like someone's got huge gardens, you don't have to work, at the same scale they are, but the actual tips that they're giving still can, you can still use those tips in a smaller scale. So you just got to be thinking about, right, okay, how can I use that in my small area here, and how best will it work? Right, okay, I can take this bit, but not quite that bit, and then make your own little system. And I think some of the best gardeners do that. They look at lots of different gardeners and they think, oh, I like that, I like that, I like that. I'm going to test that. And then before they know, they've got their own little sort of way of doing things. And that's really good.
We call it magpieing. So literally, so if you've read a lot of books and you're going to go and write a story, for example, well, I like that bit from that, and you collect from here.
Take a little bit from everything and make it.
And like you can watch 50 YouTube channels and still grow something successfully without taking any of those tips, because I take them all with a pinch of salt, and they're what grows well for me. They're what grows well for Jane, Roo, Tony, and all the other YouTubers. Like, we only go on there to show you like how we do it. It doesn't mean that you need to do it always that way, and I think that goes back to like where people said about like when my plot, they were like, oh, your plot was like, they wanted to get an allotment and they had this idea that it's going to be really quick, that it'll turn around and stuff, and it doesn't. It's forever a work in progress, isn't it? Like, like we could all go show our plots, really the darker side of them as well, and say like, this is really the real side, and we do show them in the true light. But
can I just say though, and it's easy to think sometimes that it's one way, because the only sort of feedback we get is usually during, the comments, which we read after we've filmed and everything. So, but like Lorraine said here, can I say I have a pond and fish still alive because of Tony's advice, and I have a plum tree producing because of Tony.
Yay.
They're both from so long back. So we get
well done, Tony.
Fantastic.
And that's the thing, guys. Like, I'm passing on tips to other people, the same as you're doing.
Steve.
But yet, I'm still watching brand new people coming out and starting YouTube channels and stuff, because they might only be, I know a lot of stuff now, but they might come out with a little golden nugget that will make my life easier.
Wait till you see my Polytunnel designs, Tony. It's going to change your life.
Well, you change it, all right. I'll be pulling my hair out now, I'm sure.
Oh, thank you, Leanne. That's lovely, and it's really nice to hear. And keep going with your channel, because
thank you, Leanne.
I've been doing mine for 4 years, and as you just said, I've only just hit 1,000 subs. So keep going. If you enjoy it, keep doing it.
Don't be disheartened about that, right? Because like, when I started, it took me nearly 8 years to get 5,000 subscribers, right? And then what happened then, it just went ballistic, and now I'm where I'm at now a few years later. It just goes like that because it can take a long time. So don't ever get disheartened. Just keep making content, and eventually it will happen. You only ever fail if you quit. So just keep making content. Just remember why you got into it in the first place, and just keep doing that and turning up.
And you've got a lovely garden, Leanne. So keep going.
That's really nice.
Yeah, like I think, but even when you get to a certain, channel growth, you're always, I would still do it if I was still at 300 subs, I generally would, because I didn't. It's always nice, and it's nice when you see other people watch it, and you have. And I generally do it for the comments. I generally do I like the fact that I interact. You love it as well, didn't you, Roo? Like just
And also,
interacting.
can I just say it goes both ways? You know, people are saying, oh, you know, that you're inspired by watching YouTube, but we're also personally, I'm sure the others feel the same, inspired by you, because you support us with your comments in what we do. You give us hints and tips about what you do. So it really is a two-way street.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, as you get a bit bigger, it gets harder to comment or answer every single comment, and is why I want to start a second channel and make a live stream there, because I want that way to interact with people, and I still read every single comment. But like when you're getting like, you know, 6,000 comments in a day or something like that, you know, I'd be there all day just answering comments. I'd never make another video, you know. You know, so as you get bigger, it gets a lot harder. And I think people, because like when I was a smaller channel, I really struggled in which to like answer, you know, all the comments as they started getting bigger and bigger. And you guys will find that as you go. So you have to find other ways to connect with people. And I do that by turning up to other people's live streams, or, you know, going to run my own live stream now, because it's my way of staying connected with everybody, but I still answer the questions that really need answering, if you get my drift, you know. So
like Graham Bolton said, we don't film hours, but we still every second of our plot. And I agree. Like there's times where we've all because we chat quite regularly as well, and we'll say many times we went up today and we just didn't film because
to enjoy it. Yeah,
honestly, we film for you. Like we film for the viewers. I don't film for me. Like I'd be quite happy to go up there some days and just film, but sometimes I think, you know, I've got to film for the viewers because they want that weekly thing. And yeah, we need a secretary. We all need a secretary, honestly.
I think ultimately we wouldn't be doing it. We're not just doing it to make a film with. We're all doing gardening because we love the garden.
Because we love it. Yeah.
The filming,
what to inspire people is why we're doing it.
The filming is secondary, and there is, when I go up there, if I do film, and there's days where you think, oh, I'm going to do film, I'm going to do this, and sometimes you might not, but it's worth it because it's that comeback that you get from the audience.
From Allotment, thank you for watching.
This is turning into a different conversation, though, guys.
Yeah,
we're going to pull this back to the gardening. Leanne, yes,
right, let's get back to gardening. So
that's going off onto something completely different.
Okay.
So yeah, like as I was saying, like I think gardeners remember that it's not a race and it's not a competition. Like don't look at other people's gardeners, even next doors to yours, and think, I wish mine was like that. Make it about you. Make it about it should be about you. That your space is for you. Don't think you need to impress next doors. You know, as long as you're not having weeds blow over to theirs, then I would just do nobody has a plot like mine, and they laughed when they first come onto my plot, and they were like, he's got archers and he's got no dig. Nobody did no dig, and now they're all doing no dig because nobody likes different until they like different.
How many people on my allotment are now growing potatoes in buckets? But
exactly.
What I will say to everybody is that things like Facebook can be quite a dangerous thing, especially if you're a new gardener, because all of a sudden in early spring, you start seeing up all these amazing photos of people's gardens, all doing this, that, and the other. And it's all about your own microclimate. You may not be anywhere near that. And people tend to put off their garden to everybody else's that way. And you can't do that. The only person you ever need to be sort of not competing, but looking at yourself with is yourself from previous times, because you are the only one with the same microclimate. You know, me and Danny, we've already established that we're only 40 minutes up the road, but yet we've got totally different growing environments. You know, so and that's the thing. Whereas with Danny, he may be weeks ahead of me at some point, or vice versa. So you can't just judge from pictures that you're seeing of people's gardens and you go, oh, well, I haven't even got my song yet, type of thing, you know? You've got to think about it that way.
So Ali commented saying a lot of gardener YouTubers, they stop growing, you know, they stop making films videos through autumn and winter. But I know I always have and I always will.
Amelia.
But we've all decided that I think Jane and Roo, we are more, and Tony, we're more actively going to be putting more videos out for the winter and stuff, because I actually I like filming those. They probably will be a bit boring on times because there's not going to be a lot of green there, but I will show other projects of things that we will be doing.
And you are right.
Like,
James doesn't do it. You know, he stops gardening from around now until March and stuff. But look, you know, I mean, the thing is, you know, in reality, we have to sort of feed the algorithm in effect to be able to stay relevant. And but there are still things that we can be educating people on and inspiring people and things like that. And it may not always be like, you know, I've just grown 100 pounds of potatoes in 2 days type of videos, but you'd be surprised at the information that can come out in the depth of winter. And it's when people are starting to research the gardening, ready for their spring gardens. So, you know, it's a perfect time to be creating. Yeah, it's not as green and lush and stuff like that, but, you know, it's down to the creator then to think, right, what can I do that's going to be relevant and going to be good for people to see, you know?
I found that task button.
Hooray! So I was just going to say
an hour and 40 minutes and
moving the sprouts.
Yeah.
I've done this and it worked.
I also have.
Oh,
so yes,
I did give it a good root ball and I moved it and it seemed to be okay. But yeah,
a lot
it
of
worked for me
because they tend to have a very confined root ball. Yeah. So as long as you're giving a bit of soil around that, they don't even know they've been moved.
Can I come up with a secret tip?
Can you take it away again?
You will.
How do I take this away? Right.
None of you will take it any further, and none of you will certainly make a video about it before I do.
Roo, write this down.
But one of the things that I'm going to trial this year is, and I'm only asking because someone might have already heard of
Steve.
it. I hadn't. It's hi Steve. Steve, you might have heard of this one. I'm going to be planting my broad beans in the next couple of weeks. The overwintering ones, the Aquadulcia Claudia, hopefully. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to have one set I'm just going to leave, and the other set I'm going to, once they're about yay high, move them, dig them up, move them about 6 inches over and replant them. And the idea is that if you do that, they will then go into a bit of a stress mode and really, really, really try and get their roots out. And apparently that makes them much, much stronger plants. So it'll be interesting to see if the ones I transplant will do any better than the ones I don't transplant. Now, it's a very old gardener that said that we know that said that he's done this every year.
Interesting.
So,
you know, topping them will do the same thing as well.
And will it be waxing or waning, Jane?
I don't know whether they will wax.
Don't you start it with a waxing.
Wine, but no. I just thought, I don't know if anyone else has done that. I thought it was quite amazing actually when I heard that. I thought actually it makes sense, and it
makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
You know, I suppose it depends on when you do it, and you know if the soil's conducive and everything. But Steve, Greenside Up, have you heard of that one before? I bet you have. But yeah, I'm going to give it a trial anyway this year.
That'll be interesting. We'll be looking out for it.
Yeah. So any other tips that you guys give now?
Sorry, Dan, was that a bit boring?
Talking of sprouts being moved, so Leanne's obviously got sprouts on the go. What are people growing at the moment?
So I'm not growing. I've still got things like chard and the usual brassicas in. I'm going to be sowing some broad beans or fava beans, whatever you want to call them, garlic, onions, the usual stuff. But I'm holding back this year on the amount I'm putting in through winter because I've got so many big projects that I want to do on the plot, and they're just going to get in my way and take up time with me caring for them. So I will put stuff in the tunnel, but the bulk of it, I'd be waiting till early spring.
That's interesting. Steve's just said now, Steve knows everything, don't you, Steve? Honestly, he's such a good gardener.
He's such a good gardener.
Honestly, go and see. Yeah, can do the same thing with a trowel in the same grow hole. So yeah, I suppose you're doing the same thing. So you just chop down, and then I suppose then you're disturbing the roots, and you're going to
same principle.
Yeah. I like that.
My brother has just said Danny needs to have his brother back for another cooked breakfast.
Enjoy your dog walk, Leanne. Thanks for watching.
You're welcome anytime, Andrew.
Bye, Leanne. Lovely to see you. Yeah. But it's interesting. And again, I've been gardening for years. I've only been filming for 6 years, but gardening, years and years and years.
Yeah.
I've never heard that thing about the roots. And I think even at my old age, long in the tooth, like you were saying before, Tony, you pick up these little nuggets and you think, oh, hey, I'm going to give that a go. And that's what keeps it exciting. Just these little tips,
You'll with gardening, you will learn something till the day you die, and that's the beautiful thing about it.
Yeah,
you never stop learning. And the thing is, we've all seen those really old gardeners. They've been a wealth of knowledge, and one day we'll be there giving the new, this new kid all of that information, but we've been doing it all the way through as well. And that's the thing, if you can only inspire 1 or 2 new people to start gardening and love it as much as we do, then I think all the effort and everything else has been worthwhile,
Yeah, like to be honest, I don't care even if they don't garden. Like some of the comments I have that just say like I was having a crappy day and they came on just to see how I was getting on, and I monkeyed about on the plot, and and that was enough for me to know that they had a smile just for a couple of seconds. Yeah. And if they don't come for the garden and they come for something else, I'm happy with that as well. Either way.
I don't know if you would mind me sharing this story, but one thing I will say is, as gardening creators, we don't realize the effect we have, because to us, we think, oh, we're just making a gardening video. And I want to tell folks about a little story. About 2 years ago, I had a message on Facebook from a guy who said to me, Tony, I want to thank you very much because you've saved my life. And I was like, okay, And it turns out this guy had been in the armed forces. He had PTSD. He was all over the shop, and he was basically arguing with his wife all the time, his kids. He was being horrible to his kids, to the point where he climbed a tree and put a rope around his neck. Something talked him out of that tree that day, whatever it was, and it just happened across my channel, and he started viewing my videos and ended up getting an allotment, which helped him sort out his head, and it sorted out, his relationship with his wife and everything else. You just don't know the effect that gardening has. It's great for our health and everything else, but it sorts out a lot of people's mindsets. And just to be able to inspire someone just to be able to go and take control of their own life like that is amazing. And you don't realize you're doing that because, we're all there just making a video as far as we see, but you don't see the effects it's having once it's been posted to YouTube. And, when I was reading this email, I broke down crying, because you just don't realize.
I probably ruined many of people's lives.
But it is crazy, and that's the strength.
Sorry, Amir, I've lost. Hold on. I seen one off Amir as well.
Asking what our home gardens look like. I'd love to see our home gardens.
There's more than 10 volumes.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Steve. Oh, garden is never ending.
It is.
I'm trying to find. I just seen a comment off Amir as well.
About asking what our home gardens are like. You'd like to see our home gardens. So you see my
Don't
home
look
garden
at James
if you watch my channel, because I actually do grow at home.
Mine is undergoing, well, I'm not even going to say restoration. It's basically been a tip for a few years. And this year we've extended the shed and we've built a wood store enough for like 3 tons of wood. And so it's been through the mill, but I've got plans. I've got stuff in this year. So next year in my head, it's going to be absolutely beautiful. And I probably will do a video on it because, yeah, it's interesting. I think with having the garden at home and the allotment, before I had the allotment we've got now, my garden was my absolute sanctuary. So everything was just exactly as I wanted it. And now it's okay. It's lovely. But my allotment is my sanctuary.
Jane, that's exactly it. Mine was an absolute paradise, and I spent so much time and money on my garden. I have if you are on my Instagram, like I always post stories about my garden with, I got a pond and with frogs and tropical plants and stuff. But I agree with you, Jane, that since I had my allotment, I'm always over there trying to sort that out and catch up on jobs there that I've never sat in my garden to even enjoy it or two to work on it.
Grow at home. Lorraine, thank you. Yes, it's
yours
actually
is
Jane's
your garden is your growing space.
It is. Yeah, Lorraine says we've got some interference, but it's just Jane.
It's Jane's mic. It is.
I'm really lucky to grow at home. I know how.
My garden's like a tip at the moment because obviously when I was building this thing, all of the rubbish from it where I was doing it, it's ended up in the garden, and I still not had time to get rid of that. But it was usually for the kids anyway, so I don't tend to grow a lot here. And my garden, my allotment garden, is like literally 100 feet across a road, so I don't need to worry about growing here. I can just walk there, you know.
Yeah, I think that's you know, we're talking about the drought and things earlier, but also the fact that I can pop across, you know, whenever. I don't have to drive anywhere. I can just walk a few steps and it's there.
Yeah.
She's lucky, isn't she, Jane?
I know. It's
I know, I'm very lucky.
There's always the thing of, if you had your ideal growing space, would you have an extension to the back? This would be mine. Land at the back of the house where I could just do what I wanted with. Or would you rather have an allotment, so somewhere detached from the house? Tony, you sound like you've got the best of both worlds. And what I do love about going up to the allotment is seeing the other people there. That's part of it for me. We've got a really good of people there, and that's lovely.
And let's face it, Jane likes to talk.
Thank you.
Bye, Pam. And
Bye.
What did you
Bye,
say?
Pam.
I said, and let's face it, Jane likes to talk.
Yeah, like I must admit, if I wouldn't have had an allotment when we had when the pandemic first started, I probably would have been in a worse state than I am now. But what I mean is, like I need that social aspect to keep my mental health okay. And without that, I would have been so lost, because I do live alone, and I work in a place, in a hospital, where I'm always with patients. But when I come home, there's nothing. So when I was isolating from my family, because I work in a hospital, it was months and months and months where I couldn't see my family. So that allotment was my godsend, that I could just talk over the fence, social distancing. I was craving that. Like, I noticed that more and more people at the plots would come in just to see other humans and
have some communication. It's like just said here, he'd like to extend his back garden 3 miles.
Steve, we'd all love to do that, pal.
But we had, apparently about 10 years ago, in our allotment site, I may have said this to you before, there is the allotment sites we have, there's 34 of them, and they're full-size allotments, so quite a lot of land, and they were owned by the church. And the church was selling the land off. Nobody wanted the land. I mean, can you imagine that now? And they offered to sell the plots, each plot off to the owner for £10. It wasn't more than. I'm wondering now, £1 or £10 each, with the caveat that everybody had to agree to buy their own plot of land, and 2 people out of the 34 didn't want to do it. So it was just taken. It was privately sold, and so now we've got private ownership. So anything could happen to our allotment.
That's amazing.
But it's just ridiculous, because that's exactly what I would want, Steve. I would want our allotment, the one next door, the one next door, the one next door. I would just want to live in the allotment. You know.
The thing is, though, the more you take on, is the more jobs. You know, like one allotment is enough for anyone to manage weed-wise, but you always want to grow something more, don't you? And that's the issue. Like, you always think, I wish I had that extra space. Like, I've gained the second plot now, but I still. Oh, bye, Ali.
Bye, Ali.
She's off to post everyone's seeds, I expect. Yeah, like I've gained an extra plot now, and I know I won't be happy with that amount in a year's time, but you'll always be able to fill it with something, won't you? But you've got to manage the time that you're going to spend there, because the more
and also
the more time.
that's one of the things I'm being very mindful of, is I do actually have chronic health conditions, 4 of them. So I don't want to go too big. I'm always going, oh, I could. But I know if I get any bigger, I'm not going to be able to manage it. And then I'm going to stop enjoying it. So you've got to stay within.
I think, though, if Greenside Up had an extra couple of miles, he'd find a bigger polytunnel to put over it, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It'd be like Liz. It would be like Liz.
Liz's polytunnel. Honestly, you could play basketball in there.
Yeah.
It is huge, isn't it?
It might. Oh dear.
The rain sitting in a car in her pajamas.
I don't think I would necessarily grow any more veg. I think I would have more of like an orchard and goats, because we've had goats before. They were fantastic. So I would be using the land for different things.
I mean, that's one of the reasons I've gone for my flower bed this year, because it's at home and I spend so much time there, and I wanted more like cottage garden flowers, and the garden bit, sort of traditional space onto the house, isn't really suitable. So I've added it onto my plot area.
Liz has said before that she is her allotment site is under threat. And I think it's a really lovely allotment site from what I've seen, Liz. And that's what's worrying. In this day and age where people are desperate to get land for housing, allotments are just going to be sold. I mean...
and it must be devastating. I've seen a few people recently where years and years of building up an allotment plot and putting their heart and soul into it, and then to have to lose it. I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating, but I mean, the thing is, the saving grace that we have is a legal requirement for the councils to provide land, right? So that's something that we need to push as allotmenteers. And but the problem you have is when you've got a big organization with a huge, bankroll who are able to talk louder than you, it's very difficult to argue the point. But either way, you just have to keep arguing it. I'm quite lucky where I am in that the council don't own our land. So we are association run, but it's actually owned by the, some of you may have seen, I don't know, one of my beekeeping videos in Llancerchfawr, which is a manor house up the road, and they actually own the land that the site is on. So it's never going to be sold, so that's the good thing.
I was through the summer, was actually up for, there was this bit of turmoil, are we going to lose our plot? And there was going to, there was a point where I thought I was going to lose the Grapevine allotment. I thought, how can you have a channel without, they say they'll move you over, but it's not so much the time, or if they offer you a bit of money for compensation stuff. It's all that love and all that food and that nutrients you put into that soil, and they just don't see that. They just think there's an extra couple of houses on. Like, everyone sees the backdrop of mine and they always comment how lovely it is, but the other side there is actually a pile of new buildings, and homes. So it's always a worry.
I don't think Lisa Hawke has to worry about nutrients in the soil, because she said ours is on an old leper colony graveyard, so it can't be built on.
Nutrient rich.
200. That is proper stuff. That is, Lisa. That's amazing. Oh, bye, Hannah. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I wonder if that difference to the soil. Growing in a graveyard, it's going to be quite rich. There'll be lots of worms.
Jane, who's Hannah?
Oh, Hannah.
Don't embarrass poor Jane.
I'm just saying goodbye to Hannah in case there was a Hannah on.
Danny, you're so mean.
He's a tinker.
Bye, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah, as well as Hannah.
Danny, you need a slap.
I'm a rascal,
So there we go. And Emma. I do know Emma. Thank you, Emma. Yes.
I do give Jane some stick, to be fair.
Yes, he does.
But she gives as good as he gets. It goes.
You know what? The banter that goes on between us on the background is hilarious. Like, I wish sometimes it was filmed more and people seen that. It's ridiculous. Like, we all do get on, and that's a nice thing about it. Is like, you can't always like everyone, but they tolerate me.
Yeah, we put up with him.
Yeah, we put up with me.
We're getting close to not tolerating you, mate.
Yes. Very close. Yeah.
James
Well,
is the
you did
closest.
do a
I
good
think.
job of boosting, promoting me. So thanks, put up with you for that.
What, Nigel? Your
Nige.
is being destroyed by the cat. Not the allotment.
No.
Are they trying to take it off you, mate?
They're taking control.
Oh wow.
Oh, that's not great.
Well, you live fairly close to the allotment, Nigel. It's out your back door, isn't it? Plus, they want to allocate plots.
Oh, that's not good, mate.
No, that's shocking.
That's just the start of it when they start controlling the list.
Yeah.
So you may want to start thinking about what you're going to do.
Yeah. Bye, Andrew. Lovely to have
Bye.
you.
Thank you for joining, Andrew.
Bye, Andrew.
Hi, Andrew. Oh, that's my brother.
Oh.
Go over to Danny's for breakfast.
Oh. Yeah, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
There we go. So yeah.
Right,
so
one question, last one. Is there a way to stop the council? They decide to do these things.
No way at all.
No.
You have a legal course of them having to supply you a plot, but they can't. But no legal thing can say, as long as they give you somewhere else.
Bye, Liz.
Bye. Thank you, Liz.
You may have invested thousands of pounds into the ground, right? But they can just take it off you like that and then just move you elsewhere, which is like an old tip or something. You just as long as they provide.
But they are providing. Yeah.
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 Right. 2 hours, Danny.
Well,
yeah.
hey,
So I think
that flew by, didn't it?
It did flow by. So I did promise it was going to be about 2 hours and then we would stop. So I just want to say, I'd like to say thank you for Roo, Jane, and Tony for all coming on today, and also for Will for moderating.
Yeah.
So
thank you, Will.
Thank you all, and
thank you to everyone coming as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all for joining us. Yeah, thank you. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye. Night.
See you later.